Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have a very horrifying subscriber submitted experience to share with you all. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They all were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's upload. Shall we? All right, we are in front of the camera for the first time in a while, minus the live streams. Couple things before we get into this just plain out crazy experience that a gentleman named Lance shared with me. Many of you know that I was diagnosed with a manageable by medication terminal illness. But every once in a while, I go through a little bit of depression. The medication didn't work for a little while. Things were elevated, kind of went out of remission, and I got real depressed for a couple of months. It's good to be back in front of the camera. I think it's more personable to be in front of the camera with y'all. Depression is a crazy, crazy thing. I really thought I was over it. I thought it was only like a couple weeks, but it's been months, a couple months. And it's been the first time since I've recorded in front of the camera and in my downstairs studio. So I am feeling much better, and I do appreciate all of your guys' support. All right, that's checked off. Next. September 30th is going to be in Whitehall, New York, 20 minutes from my home, a Bigfoot festival. Many of you know that there is a somewhat famous case where a Bigfoot sighting and encounter happened in Whitehall, New York. Whitehall is in the Champlain region. Beautiful, beautiful country, you know, just a really beautiful place, full of woods. Finding Bigfoot, whatever TV show took advantage of the community up there. They're pretty much not wanted up there ever again. But anyway, Bigfoot Fest, September 30th, which is a Saturday. Now, many of you know and have participated in the live streams. Well, that's always Saturday at midnight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Bigfoot Fest and live stream from the festival. And then I will also do my regular live stream at home. But I'm really excited about that. I wanted to go last year, but I couldn't. I ended up going to the Conjuring House instead, which was just an amazing event as well. Me and Isabel, my youngest daughter, we rented the house out. It was just me and her, and the video's on the channel. So, last, Tom Mezek. Fall is here, and as many and all of you probably know who has been with this channel for a while, or new people who are just tuning in and watching some old videos, I am obsessed with Tom Mezek. Tom Mezek is a gentleman who disappeared in November 15th of 2015. Ironically enough, my daughter Isabel's birthday. And I go up there quite often, or had. Strange, last time I was up there, I was chased out of the woods, actually. Something smashed through a tree. A week prior, I had caught video evidence of something running down the mountainside, bipedal, dropping to a quadruped, and then running down a ravine, quadruped, which was just awesome and terrifying. Not my first encounter. So I'm going to be going back up there really soon. It's going to be like 90 for the next week. So I'm going to wait for it to cool off a little bit. School has started. And I'm going to have some more time on my hand. And this depression hopefully is just handled. So I got some trail cams. I'm going to put those up. Hopefully I can catch some kind of footage that whatever is up there, there is something up there. Tom Mezek, missing 411 case, disappeared hunter. Just sat down with a group of friends and family, and hunting day was over. He was older. They were pushing in. He was an retired or former 82nd Airborne. He taught survival skills. So he was older, but here's the thing. When you learn certain skills, you don't forget them. Unless you have dementia, which he did not. So if he had stood up and wandered off, he would have known to sit down and wait for someone to find him. They never found his rifle. They never found his walkie. They never found his favorite hat. He wore this checkered red and black cap, and they never found that either. So my obsession with that region is just because it's a local missing 411. And I don't know, I just feel this kind of, I'm drawn there, I guess. And hopefully I can find some evidence of something up there very soon. I have caught an audio of something smashing through the tree and me video running down the mountain. But like I said, video of something running down the mountain as well. So that's kind of a heads up of what we've got planned and in store for fall. Now let's jump into this very chilling experience out of a kind of state park that I have never heard of. And, researching and doing this work, I've learned quite a bit about different states. And this one just blew me away when this subscriber emailed me the other day. And I was kind of feeling up to it and jumped on the phone with him. So let's get into it. All right, so when I spoke to this gentleman, his name is Lance, or that's what we'll refer to him as. The header of his email was Dogman fights Bigfoot in Montana. Kind of, my eyes went, what? And I star it like I normally do when any subscriber sends me an email. I star it and I put it in my saved box, and then I go back later at night and go through that that box. Well, when I opened it, I don't know what I was expecting. To be honest, I was expecting that he had typed out his encounter. But the email read, "Not a very good typist. Please call me. I'd like to share my experience with you." And so I texted him and said, hey, this is Jeff Nadolny. How are you? You got a couple of minutes? And he said, it's going to be more than a couple of minutes, bud. So I called him. And his experience takes place in a place called Granite Ghost State Park. Nearest town is Phillipsburg, Montana, and it's in Granite County, Montana. Now, this is a camping location. I've never heard of it. And apparently they rent teepees. There's camping locations for people to camp. And, you know, it's set up for camping. It's like an old ghost town. But in the wilderness, like in the woods. It's not like a deserted, like desert or deserted. It is deserted, but like a desert style ghost town. It's in the wilderness. There's a ton of woods. Really beautiful. Check it out online. And it's Granite Ghost State Park in Phillipsburg, Montana. So he was back in 2021, the prices to camp there are pretty expensive. On top of he was there illegally. There's no camping past September 30th. He was in late October and it was bitter cold. He had gone up there with a buddy of his to kind of scare themselves. It was a couple days before Halloween, and they were way away from the area where teepees would be and where the regular camping area. They were in a restricted spot. So pretty much if a ranger had shown up or anything, they would have been screwed. So they get in there and they get there around 4:30. It's just getting dark. It's pretty cold, about 50 degrees, which is, you know, decent. But they knew it was going to get colder because, you know, it's 4:30. Usually the high point of the day. They find a location where they feel like no one's going to spot them when they light their campfire. You know, they weren't just quick setting up. They were going to be there for a couple days. So they were going to, you know, make a little pit, have their fire, make a pit for the bathroom, and have their tent, which they did. The first night they were there, they dug their little pit, put some rocks around their fire pit, set their tent up, and dug a hole a ways away from where their tent and fire would be. That night goes by smoothly. Nothing happens. Temperatures get a little chilly that night. And they're just ready and real excited to, because you can go there and walk around, but you can't camp there. So what they did was they hid in a restricted area. They set their camp way away from the areas of, you know, where these old buildings are. They get up the next morning and they start walking around, looking around, and they had a blast. As the day progresses, you know, it starts to get a little breezy. It almost looks like it's going to be an early snow. Not a big one, but it's a couple inches, maybe. So they get back to their camp. They're trying to decide, hey, it's cold, colder than we expected. Do we want to stay? Is it going to snow? They listen to their weather radio. They have like this survival radio that they brought with them. And like when I say they were there illegally, but they were stocked. They had a radio, they had their fire, they had food, and they just didn't want to be around people, and they wanted to enjoy the late fall weather. So that's why they kind of did it. Plus Halloween. That's the biggest reason. So they're like, you know what? We're here. Let's stay. It's not gonna spit any snow. It's gonna be about as cold as it was last night, which was in the 40s. We've got it. So they have their dinner. They don't see any people. They don't see any rangers. They think they're gold. They get ready to go to bed, and they have absolutely no issues. They're in bed. Lance is in his sleeping bag, and how they set their tent up, they were, instead of their feet facing the door, they had a large, like, 6-man tent. So their feet were facing the window, head by a window, and his buddy was by the door. They wake up and they hear this kind of strange howl, almost like something was in pain. He said, it wasn't a wolf, it wasn't a coyote, it was not a fox. It was a very deep, bassy howl. They get out of their tent, both of them, and they're like, what the hell was that? Their fire is embers now. They stoke the fire and get it going, and they kind of sit back. And it's still early. They went to bed pretty early. They went to bed at like 9, 10 o'clock. So it's, midnight 1. It's not 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. So they kind of sit there for a second. They're like, what was that? And in their head, they're like, maybe it was the spirits. Maybe it was the ghosts, They don't hear it again. They don't hear it that second night. Again, they just hear this like kind of howl. And it wasn't like a pained howl, but it was just this deep, bassy howl. Nothing that they'd ever heard before. They go to bed because they're not worried. They didn't hear it after that. The next day goes by, and they're walking around again, just, having fun. They're both young men in their 20s. They're smoking weed. They don't drink. He was, I said, were you drinking? He's like, no, we were just smoking weed and, just being guys, hanging out, getting away from our girlfriends, getting away from our job, getting away from our families, and just not kids, but moms, dads, and just getting away. Probably our last hurrah before we start families, and which he has now. So they're just hanging out, walking around, hiking, and it starts to get to be around 3:30, 4 o'clock. This is the third night or third day they are there. So at this point, they're hungry. They had been just hiking all day. They did go, once again, to the ghost. There's some dilapidated buildings, ghost town, I guess you call it. And, they had the apps on their phone, ghost detector, SLS camera. And he and I talked a little bit because he had watched the Conjuring video, and he's like, I don't think they work as well as the real equipment, but we were having fun. And so they start to hike back to their camp. This is going to be they're going to spend one more night after tonight and head out. As they're walking or hiking back to their camp, there's these kind of, I guess, cliffs, bluffs, he called them, like where they're not sheer cliffs, but you can walk up and look down. It's something you're not gonna hike up, because it's loose dirt and rock and stuff. But there's pine and other kind of trees up there. And as they're walking, they hear that howl again. And they both kind of look at each other like, what the hell was that? They're about 20 minutes from their camp. And so they're walking, and they know that this kind of cliff thing is there. And so they hear the howl, and they both like, I think it came from over that way. Let's go check it out. So that's what they do. They hike over that way, and they're going the complete opposite direction from their camp. They get to this kind of top of this cliff. Now, I don't want people, because he had me look it up. I don't want people to think like it's a sheer drop off. But you're high up. You're looking down maybe 60 feet, I'd say, visually from what I saw. They hear this howl again, and they get to this area, and they look down, and what they see is something that he can never forget. There was a lot of dust in the air coming up, and they could hear like kind of movement, shuffling, and like if something was running. They look down, and they see this large gorilla. Instantly that's what came to. He's like, is that a gorilla? And then his buddy said, I think that's a Bigfoot. And they both kind of freeze right there. They back up a little bit and kind of go over to this like area of trees to kind of shield themselves from eyesight, because they haven't spotted what's going on yet. As they're watching, all of a sudden what they thought was a wolf, but then they realized, hey, wolves are not that big. It was quadruped. Was running around the Bigfoot and biting at its legs. It would howl and go to punch and hit and kick at it. The creature, the wolf, then stands up, and what he said was the Bigfoot grabbed the wolf by its muzzle, and because it was trying to bite it, as it stood up, it was going for its face, and it just grabbed it by its muzzle and kind of smashed it. The Dogman at that point kind of looked dazed. It didn't make a noise. It didn't make like any kind of pained noise. The Bigfoot, they could hear this grunting. It was grunting. Like every time it moved, like when it grabbed the muzzle, it grunted. Like it was tired. And he said this thing must have been going on for a while because the Bigfoot actually looked like it was tired. So they're watching this Bigfoot kind of pummel this wolf that is standing on two legs. They don't know what a Dogman is. He kept saying werewolf. His buddy was like, that's a skinwalker. And that's what they kept telling themselves. That's a skinwalker. So this now Dogman is on the ground after it had gotten, smashed. And the Bigfoot is kind of stepping on it, doing what an ape would do. And sorry about that. People on my street, people are yelling. Kind of like what an ape would do is exactly what he said. Kind of like what you would see like King Kong. It just stomped on this. The Bigfoot turned and started to walk away. And at this point, they're both like, what do? Our camp is this way. So they're looking straight on and down. Their camp is back that way. But they have to go down, like not a cliff or anything, but as the trail kind of wanders down, they're like, we need to sit here for a few minutes and figure out what's going on. Is this creature gonna, is this Bigfoot gonna come up and use this as a vantage point to look down at this creature or whatever the hell this thing was? As the Bigfoot starts to walk away from the Dogman, which is they think is dead, and probably is at this point, a larger Dogman came running full bore at this Bigfoot. What happened next was insane. He said that the Bigfoot didn't see it until it was almost too late. And as the Dogman was running, it was, the Bigfoot would be here, the Dogman ran, bam. As the Dogman was approaching, right at that final bam, it made this just growl. And he said it sounded like the most evilest sound he had ever heard. It bit the Bigfoot's shoulder and ripped it down to the ground. The Dogman was slashing at the Bigfoot. The Bigfoot was, trying to regain its composure, trying to get up again. He said that when they were watching, it looked like the second the Bigfoot had hit the ground, it was almost like its advantage of being big was gone. It was struggling to get back up. The Dogman is now slashing at this Bigfoot and biting it. They watch for 4, maybe 5 minutes. This goes on. The Bigfoot punches, it's fighting for its life. Literally fighting for its life. The Dogman kills the Bigfoot. It bites the Bigfoot's throat. The Bigfoot makes this kind of gasp, a loud gasp, and it was done. The fight was over, the battle, whatever. The Dogman gets up and it stands up and kind of rears back and howls aloud. Lance and his friend back up because they're now more afraid. This Dogman is facing them. It had backed up and howled. So it could have seen them if they were standing in the original spot where they had, shown up. It walks over to the Dogman that was on the ground that was dead and kind of looks at it, doesn't touch it, doesn't do anything, smells it, stands back up, howls again. This weird, he said it sounded like it was almost like a communication. It wasn't like, it was a howl, but it was, if there were words in it, but there weren't words. I'm explaining it to how he did it. He said, Jeff, it was as if it was howling, but it was calling out to somebody or something to come. About 45 seconds go by after this long howl, and two what appeared to be female dogmen. He said they had breasts, came and stood behind the larger Dogman, and they went over to the small, I say small compared to the Bigfoot, but it was at least 7 feet tall. They said at their vantage point and how they were that the Bigfoot was probably 9 feet, maybe. The Dogman that killed the Bigfoot was at least its size as well, which to me, I've heard of large dogmen, but a 9-foot Dogman is very seldom heard of. 7, 8 feet, 7.5, 8 feet. The two female Dogmen go, and so the Dogman that was dead was maybe 7 feet, and they go and they pick the Dogman up, the one that's dead, and they carry it away like a human would carry, like two humans would carry a body, one by the shoulders and with the legs, and they walk away with this Dogman. The Dogman, the alpha, we'll just call it the alpha Dogman, drops to all fours, smells the area where the dead Dogman had been, and then goes over to the Sasquatch and urinates on the Sasquatch. Stood up, howled again, dropped to all fours, and ran after the two female Dogmen that were carrying the dead Dogman. They stayed for probably 20 minutes just trying to figure out what had happened, out of fear, because they thought initially when they first saw this, what we saw was just unbelievable. We just saw this Sasquatch kill this bipedal dog. And then all of a sudden, within 10 minutes, 3 more come out. So they saw 5 creatures within 10 minutes. And they're like, if there's 5, if there's 4 of these things, and one of that thing's got to have some family or something, friends, let's just stay here. We got to get out of here. It's getting darker. It's getting colder. They do get back to their camp. As they're walking, they're like, what are we going to do? We need to leave. It's going to take us, they've got about a mile hike to get from their camp to where they parked. Plus they got to break down camp. They're like, by the time we break down camp, we're going to be walking in the dark. I don't want to walk in the dark. They're both like, they don't have a firearm with them. They have nothing with them as far as a couple of knives. Now, as they're walking out to go to their camp, they decide, you know what? Let's just go to camp quick, grab whatever we have that, is of value, which couple things, the radio that they had, a backpack. We'll leave the bag. We'll make sure the fire pit's out. We'll come back. We'll come back tomorrow during the light and get our stuff. There's nobody around. We haven't seen anyone for, the 3.5 days we've been here. We'll just go. Let's get the hell out of here. They go to their camp, gear up, grab their stuff, tents still up. It's now almost dark. They've got about 45 minutes to get to their car before it's pitch black. They start walking out. And as they're walking out, behind them, not right behind them, but behind them where this battle ensued, they hear this kind of wail, this just sorrowful kind of wail, which put the fear of God into them, and they just started running. They ran as fast as they could to their vehicle. They got in the car and started driving. Lance was just, he was trying to talk to his buddy about everything that had happened. His buddy is just sitting in the car like, I don't want to talk about what happened. I can't go back with you to get our stuff. I can't, They end up going to Lance's house for the night. His buddy calls his girlfriend. Lance's girlfriend's there. They tell her what happened. His buddy's girlfriend comes over. The next day, all four of them, the two girls, Lance and his buddy, go out there to get the gear. The girls think they're pulling, they may be pulling their leg, bull crap. You didn't see a Bigfoot. And what the hell is a Dogman, So they go with them and they're like, hey, where'd this happen? Well, let's see the bodies. Let's see the body of the Bigfoot. Let's see where this, fight happened. They, it's afternoon. They walk back to that bluff or vantage point, and they look down. As they're walking there, they're like, don't make any noise when you see this body. Don't just, we'll show you. Let's go. They get to the top and they look down and there's no body. There's no Bigfoot there. The girls are like, you really lied to us. What Why'd you guys run? Yada, yada. Prank's over. The girls start to walk down. They follow the trail, and the trail kind of forks off after, and they all go to that location, and they can see this dirt rock area. It's scuffled around. There's large prints, but not full on, in the scuffling area where the fight had ensued. And there's a mark where it looks like something dragged the body of the Bigfoot, where Lance and his friend had seen the body of the Bigfoot. And they look, and they're like, him and his buddy look at each other, and they're like, we gotta go. We have to go. They could see tracks, large human foot, big feet. It must have dragged the body out. That's what they don't know. They weren't there to witness it. They're like, we got to go. There's a stink in the air. It's a very pungent smell of urine. Obviously, the Dogman had urinated on the Bigfoot's body, and both are said to stink very badly. So, this is... The girls are now kind of weirded out because they see the tracks too. And they see this drag mark of, you can see something had gotten dragged. They go up the hill and they kind of start looping around. And as they are coming to where the camp would be, the camp is now, they had packed the camp up and set it up. So the tent bag is set. All their stuff is set. All four of them could grab their stuff and just go before they went to see where the body was. They get their gear, and they hear kind of a scuffling in the woods. They all look, and there's a Sasquatch watching them from the woods, just standing there looking at them. They heard it growl, and they saw these canine-like teeth. He said, I always envisioned Bigfoot to be like an omnivore. They'd have teeth like us, flat, with small canine. He said, when this thing kind of growled at us, and it was the Bigfoot, it wasn't a Dogman. It had almost like baboon teeth, just huge canines. But it stood there. It didn't chase at the girls, and the guys were like, we gotta go. Let's get out of here. Don't make any scream, just go. And they hightail it out. They don't run. The girls almost, but they're like, don't run. That's a predator. And they get out. He thinks that what happened was he thinks that Bigfoot smelled Lance and his buddy when it went to get its friend. Maybe from their scent up at the top, because they had been there. They were there for a good half an hour during the fight, and then 20-something minutes after that before they went to camp to make sure that they were okay. He thinks possibly this thing smelled them and then followed their smell to where their camp was and watched the camp. He said, I never will go back to that area again. He said, I have a child. I'm married now to my girlfriend. And he is more hesitant about reading or listening to experiences. She is the one that encouraged him to reach out to me. He had actually sent an email to a Bigfoot researcher, YouTuber, and they ignored him or her. And she had heard, a couple of my experiences that I've shared on the channel and a couple of other people. And they had sent an email out to another Dogman channel, and or what they thought was a Dogman channel until we talked. And I said, bro, it's a creepypasta channel. I'm like, it's not a Dogman channel. And reached out to me, but it was because of her. He will not go into the woods ever again. She, on the other hand, is now obsessed with Dogman, with Bigfoot, because of the one sighting of that Bigfoot. And obviously, once the girls saw that, they're not going to doubt their story, And I just thought, I was like, I didn't laugh, but I was like, bro, I'm like, you were the one that had the major crazy experience. You saw something that I can't even fathom watching. And then the girls see just the Bigfoot, and now they're obsessed, or she's obsessed. And he said, why do you think that, he asked me, why do you think the Dogman peed on the Bigfoot? Do you think it was marking its territory? And I said, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in any, but maybe it peed on that Bigfoot or urinated on the Bigfoot, knowing that another Bigfoot would come and get it, as a way of saying, hey, this is what happened to your family member, your pod member, whatever. Don't come looking, because this will be what happens to you. And I said, well, Lance, was the Bigfoot that was fighting the Dogmen as big as the Bigfoot that you guys saw in the woods? And he said, from what I saw, it could have been about the same size, but it seemed wider. And I was like, that's scary. I'm like, bro, I was shocked, the guy was super nice. And as he's telling me the experience, they were on speakerphone. I could hear their kid crying and stuff, and it's a baby, it's about a year old. And the wife kept piping in, telling, stuff about that day, and, how like when he said, when we came home and I told my girlfriend what happened, and she really, she kind of, she was like, you should have seen him. He was, as white as a sheet chicken, and just getting his, getting him, but really, really nice people. But what a wild experience. I mean, it was just, and to be illegally camping, can't report it to a ranger that they were just screwed in all ways. They can't say anything about it to a ranger. They can't, and he won't go back. He will never step foot in the woods again. He said, Jeff, I will never step foot in the woods again. He said, I don't believe in guns. And I'm like, bro, that's your biggest problem right there. I'm like, you don't believe in guns. I said, you need to at least get a shotgun. I said, where do you live? And I'm not going to tell you the location, but there's woods all around him where he lives. And Lance, brother, like you said, he said it. He said, I'm one of those guys that has the beard with the hair, with the man bun. He said, I will, even after this experience, I will never own a gun. And just a nice guy though, but it was just an interesting conversation. His wife really was, I got a kick out of her because she was just, piping in periodically, and good people. But anyway, guys, with that, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate all your support and kindness. Your support is what makes this channel continue to grow and go, and what makes it so special, With that, please stay safe, happy, healthy, ever vigilant, keeping an eye on your children, your pets, your loved ones. We know these creatures are out there. We do. And we know that they are dangerous, despite what people say. They're even if they're not demonic, let's just take that demonic part out of the equation. They're a wild animal. Wild animals are dangerous. Just be safe. Be safe, and always watch your six. God bless you all.